straight over to Si and the band, who's going to lead us in a couple of songs of worship.
Let's stand together, shall we? We've got a bit of time to come and bring our hearts to Him and to worship Him. Let's sing this song. It's called Gateway. We could have been left as strangers and never found the fold of God, but heaven gave the stranger. You opened up the way. Let's sing that again. We could have been left. We could have been left as strangers and never found the fold of God, but heaven gave the Savior. You opened up the way for us. A grateful hearts are here to worship, drawing near to your throne. Giving thanks, we'll be lifting you high, high. You are the gateway and we're running through, the only way to the Father always. You are the promise that we're holding to, only you, only. You are the gateway into holiness, the only way to the Father always. We come and worship you with confidence, because of this, you are the gateway. Sing verse 2 together. You left the fold to save us, that we might know the Father's rest. Now we're no longer strangers. Yeah. You have become our righteousness. So grateful hearts are here to worship, drawing near to your throne. Giving thanks, we'll be lifting you high, high. Yeah. You are the gateway and we're running through, the only way to the Father always. You are the promise that we're holding to, only you. You are the gateway into holiness, the only way to the Father always. We come and worship you with confidence, because of this, you are the gateway. We come running to you, Jesus. Your hands and your feet. His hands and his were pierced for us, accused and condemned. You hung on that cross. His hands and his feet. Your hands and your feet were pierced for us, accused and condemned. You hung on that cross. There's no condemnation for those in Jesus now. No. Oh, there's no condemnation for those in Jesus now. There's no condemnation for those in Jesus now. No. There's no condemnation for those in Jesus now. Yeah, you are the gateway that we're running through, the only way to the Father always. You are the promise that we're holding to, only you. You are the gateway into holiness, the only way to the Father always. We come and worship you with confidence, because of this, you are the gateway. Come, Lord Jesus, in your glory. Come and fill this place. Come and have your way among as we seek your face. When we lay our cares before you, may our striving cease as we worship and adore you. Lead us to your peace. Here we come, Lord. Verse 2 together. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on me again. Sing again, come, Lord Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on me again. Let's keep singing this. Come, Lord Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on us tonight, God. Search and know me, Savior, make me more and more like you. Change from glory into glory till we're face to face. Ransom, rescued here and holy by your saving grace. I'm known by the King of Kings. Breathe on me again, God. And I'm thirsty for you now. Yeah, I'm thirsty for you now. Lord Jesus, King of heaven, come in victory. Now the darkness is defeated. You have set us free. Dead and finished. Death, love is everywhere. Thank you, God, the curse. And every tear will turn to gladness. Every battle won. Joining with the saints and angels, praising you alone. Thank you, God. There will be with you forever. Out into and we're longing for you, God. We're longing for you. Sing verse 2 again. Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on me again. Search and know me, Savior, make me more and more like you. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on me again. Search and know me, Savior, make me more and more like you. Let your spirit move on us. Just take a moment to pause and just be with him. Fill us anew, oh God. We are thirsty for you, hungry for you. Oh, we love you, Jesus. So let your glory shine around. Let your glory shine around. Sing it out. So let your glory shine around. Let your glory shine around. King of glory, heavy crown. King of glory. So let your glory shine around. Let your glory shine around. Who was and is to come, but who was the King of Kings and is to come. Lift up his name with the sound of singing. Lift up his name in all the earth. Lift up your voice and give him glory. He's worthy, for he is worthy to be lifted up. Oh, lift up his name with the sound of singing. Lift up his name and all the earth. Lift up your voice and give him glory. He's worthy, for he is worthy to be praised. just let 3 or 4 others just bring your praise to him. He loves it, and it's so edifying for us all.
Father, thank you that we found a firm foundation in you, found something that never shakes, never changes. When all around might be sinking sand, we can stand firm on you, come to you on a Tuesday night when it's flipping cold, and we can come before you and just know you're the same. You don't change like the weather. We don't wake up one morning and find you're storming, you're angry, and the next morning you're all right.
Thank you so
much. Your love for us is as consistent and as powerful as the day we first encountered it. It's not sort of the thing we found out the first day and forget later. It's the way we live. It's the way we exist. Your love and the foundation of our lives, that is Jesus. I thank you that the truth doesn't change, that when we're looking for truth in our lives and meaning, we can look to a man who said, me, I'm the truth. We can look to a king who says, I'm the truth. I'm the meaning for your life. I'm the reason you get up every morning and breathe. Like, you don't have to look anywhere else for anything else. I am your portion. I can satisfy your soul as with the most rich of foods. When you pray for daily bread, I'm someone that comes and gives it to you, just in many different ways. But I don't ignore that prayer.
Thank you, Lord.
So, Father, I pray for everyone in this room, just as we stand before you in prayer and in worship, that you be satisfying our souls as with the richest of foods.
Yes.
So there is no want in us, no gap in what we could possibly need for today, for the weeks ahead, for the things that scare us, for futures, or maybe just work situations that are difficult, family situations that are difficult. And thank you, we can find everything we need right here. We can have nothing else but you in this moment and be satisfied and have everything we could possibly want, every desire satisfied in you, every want, every need.
Thank you,
and I pray we experience that right now in our lives. Amen.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amen. Do you guys want to take your seats? Guys, welcome to worship at Emmanuel, small group, week number 2. Should we just say thanks to the band? That was a great time. They're going to be back pretty shortly, don't worry. So, hi, again, welcome. It is so great to have every single one of you here. Is there anyone here who it's their first time? New faces? 1, 2. There's a few. You guys are extra welcome. So yeah, this is the second week of Emmanuel Worship Small Group. My name's Doug. I help lead the site over at the racecourse. There's a few race courses out there tonight. Generally the rowdy ones in the corner. Hey guys. Yeah, tonight we have, I invited that heckling, it was my fault. We've got Sign a Band leading a masterclass band lab workshop session, which should be really good. I don't have much more to say than that, so that's me done. I'm going to hand back over to Simon.
Doug Bainbridge, everyone. Great. Luke, can I grab the stand? I don't like standing up here. Is it okay if I'm here? Am I still in the light? I need to be in the light because we're videoing it. Thanks, Luke. Luke Fellingham, everybody. Oh, it's so good. Tonight we are looking at some stuff to do with band. Call these sessions Band's Lab. So huge welcome again, as Doug said, to these Emmanuel worship evenings, particularly if it's your first time here or you weren't here last term. Great to have you here. Just the headlines again, these evenings are a mixture of some times to pray, worship and minister to one another. Some of them are going to be quite band focused, quite bandy, just band dynamics, different things, how to grow playing in a band. Some of them are going to be focused on just instruments. So I think in 2 weeks' time, instrument groups are going to be together, all the drummers, all the bass players, different things. Some weeks, some theological teaching. Some weeks we're going to just grow as worshippers together, different things. So we've got a guest coming in a few weeks' time too, which is great to come and hang with us. Friend of ours from New Day, Jake Isaac, who's going to come and share and minister to the team. Great songwriter and doing amazing stuff in the industry. So we've got a great term ahead. But tonight, Band Lab, we're looking at dynamics, tension, and release. So I'm going to pray and commit this session to God. I need his help, and we all need his help, don't we? Father, thank you so much. I knew even before we started singing tonight that you wanted to come and minister to us. And thank you, even in those opening just minutes, we just know we can come and sing to you. Come, Lord Jesus, my Redeemer, breathe on me anew. And in some ways, it feels quite selfish things to pray, but in other ways, that's totally your desire. You want to come and breathe on your children. You want us to come and know your refreshing, your presence, your closeness, your nearness, your truth. Thank you that it says in Proverbs, he who refreshes will be refreshed. And I thank you, God, that right here is a whole room of people that just help refresh every Sunday from leading. Give out, give out, give out. He refreshes others. And thank you for the faithfulness in this room of people who just help people meet God Sunday by Sunday. But God, we pray even tonight that those who refresh others would tonight just be refreshed themselves by you. So hover over us, Holy Spirit, and even the practical stuff that I'm talking through tonight, still be in it and be here, Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen. Amen. I stumbled across that proverb a couple of years ago. He who, and it's she as well, he or she who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. Such a beautiful verse for those who are serving lots in worship teams. So, dynamics, tension, and release. I want to talk about songs. And songs are vehicles. Songs tell stories. Songs take you on a journey. You start somewhere, and as you go through the song, there's a lyrical journey it will take you on. So as you start here, you move on somewhere. There's also a musical journey it takes you on. You start somewhere, you go somewhere. Obviously, every song is different, every set of lyrics is different, but it is a journey. A set of lyrics do take you somewhere. They take you on a journey. Melodically, it takes you on a journey. Musically, it takes you on a journey. And I guess just thinking of some really obvious examples, there are songs that literally like are narrative example songs like In Christ Alone. 4 verses, 8 lines each. It's like 32-line story of what Christ has done for us and how we fit into that and who we are in him. Amazing journey, amazing story. Other songs that we sing, every kind of worship song we sing in some senses goes on a journey. What have we just done now? What did we kick off with? Gateway. It's a story of how we can come to the Father. through Christ. Verse 2, hey, you left the fold to save us, that we would know the Father's rest. It's taking us on a journey. Each bit is nudging us a bit further, closer to him. Not just Christian songs, secular songs. Pick a song. Galway Girl, Ed Sheeran. Played a fiddle and yeah, he loves it. Played a fiddle in an Irish band, fell in love with English man. That song tells a story. He goes on a journey. But any song, not just that. Timberlake, Katy Perry. You look at lyrics. There's some kind of journey. It's going to be different stuff to what you're singing in this building and in our sites, but they still take on a journey. But you get the point. But when we're talking about this context, the things that we're taking people through aren't just generic life experiences, but as we said last week, we're believing worship in truth. We're helping people understand who God is and who we are in him and what he's done for us. And the difference between singing through that stuff is it's truth that sets us free. There's a liberty and a freedom to singing through that stuff. So there's a story. Now, music, as we know, has power. Music is a very powerful device. Has a power to move you emotionally, has power to change and affect your mood. And you go into different department stores, they've all got music on. You go to H&M, there's music on. Why is that? Music helps you relax. Music, like you go to Pizza Express, there's music on. Just anywhere you go, there's music, but different types of music can give you different vibes and feelings. You go to a club, you don't just go out to dance to nothing. That doesn't work. There has to be a beat. There has to be something that it plays. And even just the club vibe, it moves you physically. So you've got music that's powerful, music that can involve you emotionally, can just touch you. You've all been to gigs, concerts, classical events, contemporary gigs, whatever. You've just been touched emotionally. It might not even necessarily be the lyric or something. It's just music has moved you. Music has a power to touch you emotionally. So you've got two very powerful things at play here. You've got music that can really emotionally touch you, give you an emotional experience. You've also got the eternal awakening power of truth that breaks chains, that pushes you away from being under condemnation, that brings revelation, true liberty, freedom, life to your heart. Which one should we be leaning on in a worship time? We want to encounter God. We want to sing songs of truth to him. We want to find liberty and freedom there. But also, there is something about this gift of music that when coupled with and married to truth can be a powerful, powerful force to help us connect with and worship God. So it's not either or, like per se, but music is a gift from God. How do we wield this sword coupled with truth to help us worship him? Musically savvy people know how to use music to help us to engage with God and the truth of God. And so, why are we looking at dynamics? Dynamics. Can anybody just chuck a hand up? Tell me what I mean by dynamics. What is that? Luke. That would create a certain dynamic. Anyone else? Well, I'll just take my jumper off. Go on. Sorry, I wasn't listening. Go again. Yeah, what were you saying? Yeah. Yeah, great. That's good. 3 things coming together. Chuck some hands up. What else? I'll listen this time. Sorry. Dynamics of music is the range of louds to softs. So there's a few different things in music theory. Harmony is the different notes that you have. Do they clash? They work? What notes they are? Dynamics is more to do with louds and soft. Is that right, Mike Sangerman? Okay, tell us, what is it? Okay, great. Phew. He is the music theory boss, so I just had to check with him. Yeah. So dynamics in music, they help. What do they help you do? They help you tell the story. You're going through a story lyrically. You're taking people through a journey of a song. Louds and softs are like leaning in with emphasis, or leaning back, depending on what the lyrics are. And done well can be very powerful. You know this musically. Can we just follow through on the PowerPoint? Is that all right? I think we're a couple of points in. Look, go back one. Sorry. Okay, maybe not then. My bad. Sorry. I thought I had 2 other points. I don't. Yeah, but also you have this in just telling a story in general. Hey, you just in telling a story, just your tone of voice. Preachers, like good preachers, do this well. The tone of voice will help tell the story. If you ever listen to story books with kids, we got 3 kids, so we do this in the car a lot. But when a preacher raises his voice and speaks with real intensity, like it makes you listen in. But if there's a softness, it's the same with music. So, speed of delivery, pauses, it's an art form. Um, Dynamics help you tell the story. Why is this important in a worship sense? We could just sing through stuff in a really flat line sense, but we want to wield this God-given gift of just dynamics to help people. So I'm going to learn a bit later on tonight, just helps release people emotionally in terms of worship, helps release people to go deeper sometimes, also to go higher in their praise. So we're going to have a look at some dynamics tonight, and then just a few practical things musically of how we take people on a journey through a song. And songs are vehicles, they start here, they end there. What do we do musically? Dynamics have a huge role to play. Parts, musical parts, what you play in terms of a part also helps you tell the story. But that's another masterclass. Tonight is about louds and softs and dynamics. So let's have a look. I want to have a look at a classic pop song. So next slide. Here, along the bottom, we have got what I would say is a fairly classic standard pop song. There's an intro. There's a verse 1, usually a chorus. Sometimes between verse 1 and chorus, there might be like a bit of a pre-chorus section, but just for space, I've not put that in. Back to verse 2. Another chorus. Usually there's some kind of middle 8. Middle 8 means 8 bars. And then a final chorus. Maybe at the end there's a double chorus. Guitar solo can be in there as well, Johnny, if that's what you'd like. Yeah, that is a very famous formula that has been around for a long time. Like a large majority of the top 40 in most decades fit into that. Now that is a structure of a pop song. There'd be lots of other pop songs that you could all think of that aren't quite that, and different versions of it. Lots start with the chorus these days and start and don't have a middle 8 or different things. Yeah, but that would be a kind of fairly standard pop song. Because of that, is actually a lot of church songs that we sing fit into that structure too. Hey, you recognize that? So we were going to do we did it tonight when we did Gateway. That would be like that. There's an intro, 2 verses, a little middle 8 bit. We were going to do I Am Blessed. That would fit into that. I think most songs I've ever written fit into that, which is good or bad. So what I want to look at is what the dynamics are happening in this particular structure. Next slide. On the left, we have dynamics, louds and softs. This is a very big sweeping statement about pop songs, but this is what I'd put to you. You got the intro. Let's say out of 10, that's kind of like a 4 or 5 out of 10. It's in terms of just dynamics, can feel solid, can feel strong. This is a broad brushstroke. Sometimes an intro can be a bit bigger, sometimes smaller. From the intro to verse 1, often there's a bit of a drop. Going to that first chorus, there's a nice, big, strong chorus. In verse 2, it sort of drops down again. It's rare that from chorus to verse 2, it goes up, it builds, it's louder, it's absolutely bigger than that chorus. Depending if there's a drop chorus at verse 1, the chorus 1, which I can talk about in a minute. Then chorus 2. Chorus 2 is often bigger than chorus 1. If you listen to most pop songs, listening to chorus 1, then quickly fast forward to chorus 2, something will be making it bigger. Something in the mix, something arrangement-wise will make it just feels a bit bigger. It's just you've gone on a bit further. You're not where you were 16 bars ago. You just move forward. It feels like you've gone forward. You're singing the same thing as we sung 16 plus bars ago, but it's just moved forward. Then the middle 8 section. Now I did 2 diagrams. I did one where the middle 8 goes further, but I can actually think of lots of pop songs where the middle 8 goes down, where it goes just down for a little bit. But let's stick with this one for the moment, where the middle section is massive, it's really big. Then there's that classic thing where the final chorus is really, really big, but before that, there's that drop chorus thing. After the middle 8, it just drops down for a little bit. I think particularly in a sort of more cheesy way in mainstream pop, I was going to say more in the late 90s, but to be honest, I think most decades people pull that out of the bag. And then there's just a big epic chorus at the end. But as I said, after chorus 2, very often middle eights just go down, and sometimes they go down then up, and then there's a final chorus. Yeah, and some kind of variations in that. But the main thing is there's a journey dynamically through the song. Wherever it starts, you take people somewhere. And most sort of pop songs, and this isn't just all about pop tonight, it's more about dynamics. They are taking you on a journey. There's distinguishable parts that make verses different to choruses. And I've purposely put angled lines leading into them. I put square lines dropping down into a verse from the intro, a square line dropping down into a verse 2, like from a chorus. But building to a chorus, there's a sense of like building tension. It builds into it. It isn't just like you hit a brick wall. We can think of maybe 1 or 2 songs that would disprove that case. But in general, songs build into choruses. That's what pre-choruses do. They're kind of a bridge between a verse to a chorus. So you're not just suddenly met of a chorus out of the blue, but there's something musically feels like you're getting there. Now, horribly crude, sweeping statement diagram. And you could all think of lots of examples where this isn't the case. But the main point I'm trying to say is dynamically, there's a journey. Can anyone think of any worship-y songs that we do that would kind of fit that graph? Here I Am to Worship. Yeah, great. Yeah. Sometimes the middle 8, we go straight into a big, I'll never know. But sometimes we drop down to that, then we drop up again. In fact, I can think of a lot of worship songs that do that, hey. The middle 8 is down, then goes really big. It feels like quite an overly used device. A big thing that's going on at the moment is, like for the last 10 years, to be honest, is the octave jump. You know that? Often, there's a few songs that do it at the end of verse 2. My anchor holds it in there. My anchor holds it. You know, and your love goes further still. Yes, your love goes further still. We did it. What song did we do it in? You're constant, you're faithful, you're good. So I choose to believe you again. That whole verse 2 octave jump, that's been around for a while. The middle 8 octave jump thing. Oh yeah, check out the song, Greater Than It All. So I walk by faith and not by like a big jump thing. Yeah. But middle 8s often do that. There's a drop down in the middle 8, and then the second half builds high. Shout it out and lift up one. Shout it out. Anyone think of other ones? Start down and go up high. Yes, nailed. Steady my heart. Steady my... Many do that, and they have as we discover, there's reasons why writers do that, and we arrange songs like that. So this is a pop song. It takes you on a journey, dynamics wise. You're kind of really utilizing the full, 2 out of 10 to the 10 out of 10 of range of dynamics. And I think the guys actually did really well tonight. We barely rehearsed those songs. We didn't practice Let Your Glory Shine Around. We didn't practice Lift Up His Name. I just said to Doug, I think we just do 2 songs and come and pray. But I was actually going to do I Am Blessed. You Gateway and I Am Blessed. But I just felt like, no, come Lord Jesus. Just felt like he wanted to come and minister, which we didn't run. But dynamically, I just felt what Lewis is doing and the guys, they took us somewhere. And as we sort of built through Let Your Glory Shine Around, getting to that chorus of Lift Up His Name was a real just high moment of worship, just for me personally. And we're really utilizing the full stretch of dynamics. Can we go to the next slide? Sometimes we can end up playing songs with our band more like this line here. We can go through a whole song and basically sit between 4 or 5 out of 10 for the whole thing. Hands up who's ever been in a worship time where that's happened. Hands up who's played in a worship time. And like, yes, I've done that. And if we don't actually give thought and rehearsal time to dynamics, and we're not experiencing it, this is generally how we'll play. We'll just play through. And in a sense, like, you can play tightly, you can play the chords, you can do everything else right, and God will move, and we're singing songs of truth, and it's not like, well, God's folding his arms, like, what, you didn't hit 10 out of 10? No, he's not like that. But we're only going just so far in how we can help serve people musically. And so what I want to do tonight is, how can we learn as a band to really make use of the 2s to 10s rather than the 4s and 5s? What musically things can we do across the instruments to actually help do that? How do you do that? And like, when should you do that? Does that make sense? Good. Let's move on. How do you achieve a 4? How do you achieve an 8? It's not as like obvious as you think. There's lots of subtle things that'd be great to look into. So first up, remember the whole framework for this is songs take you on a journey, and dynamics help you tell the story. One of the first feedbacks I got from when I started preaching was preachers take about 10, 20 preachers to find their voice, longer probably. I think I got a bit of a head start because of how long I've been leading worship. But most young preachers just speak in a monotone the whole time, and it can just send people to sleep. So like, good verse preachers will have moments of intensity, moments of quietness. My issue was the other way. I was just too intense the whole way. I was just like 8 out of 10 and shouting. It was the first worship school in 2008. And Stuart Townend sat me down and was like, I just don't understand why you were shouting like 3 minutes into it. I don't know either. Anyway, that's me. So that's dynamics. Remember, we're telling the story and how we can use that to create tension, as we'll get to. So shall we look at number 1? Next slide. Here I've got 3 ways that you can create like the full spectrum of dynamics. At this point, I'm going to ask the band to come up, if that's all right. Gents, cheers. Number 1, really, really obvious, but it's just worth saying. I'm going to swap mics here, if that's all right, Matt. To utilize the dynamics just on your own instrument. Who reads music here? So you'll know PP is like music code for soft, actually very soft, and F is loud, and double F is like loud. You have like triple F, like very, very loud. So pianists will know when they're playing, if they see a P, it's like a, they see like an F, it's like, and these electrical keyboards are only going to go so far, but on an actual real piano, you can really get a lot of dynamic out of it. And there's a whole range. There's P, there's F, but in between that, there's MP. Does anyone know what the M stands for? Mezze. Is that right? Mezze. Very good. So even between P and F, right around? Yeah, P to F, there's MP, and then MF, then F. So there's quite a big range of dynamics. So trained classical pianists would know how to play like quietly, like a bit more, and a bit more, then like F, then moments where it's like double F and you're smashing down. Question for you. Do you play your instrument, just you personally, with that range of dynamics? Like guitarists, do you do that? In fact, there's a point really on particularly on these instruments, you hit it too hard and actually it's a horrible sound. Like if you smash a Nord, it's not nice. If you crack a like electric acoustic, it sounds awful. But still, there is a bit of a range. The first thing, just dynamically, you as with your instrument, are you making use of the dynamic range of your instrument? There'll be other things in play here. If you are younger to a worship team and less experienced, the idea of hitting your keyboard really loud will scare the monkeys out of you. Like nerves, insecurity, you feel safer sort of like tucking in here and not really being heard. And it was like, come on, play louder. You're like, no, I don't want to play louder. So there is a journey just in you feeling comfortable in a band, but it's so important to get there. You're the only keyboard player. Come and do your thing. It's your role. There are times where you are the person that's going to help get from this verse to this chorus. And one of the things that might help get there is actually you digging in a bit on your instrument. That's just keys. Would you say the same on bass, Luke? I'm going to hand you the mic.
Yes, indeed. There's a whole range of dynamics that you can get from really quiet to really loud, everything in between. But you can use different sounds, using the pick to get more aggressive or fingers to soften it, all of that kind of stuff.
Pass it to Lewis. This is a really obvious point, but it's helpful to make it.
What's the question?
Dynamics on an instrument. Do you tend to play the same loudness, or do you have a range?
Yeah, there's definitely a range with the drum kit. Obviously, it's an acoustic instrument. It does make, and it has an inherent volume, but you could use a different implement. So you can hit it with a stick, and with a stick, you're going to have a range, but then you could use a hot rod or a brush, and that would change the range of dynamics.
Yeah. And so just even in the 15-minute time of singing we had a minute ago, you would have used the sort of 2 to 10 in your playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like it. Did it feel like your end? Yeah, there are moments where he went for it. Same for you, Andrew? Great. It's a good question, actually, electric-wise. Can you?
Yeah. So it's just a range of different sounds that you'd use, whether you're going to like swell into the note or just hit it, or whether you're going to put loads of distortion on. Yep.
Yeah, so I think just as an encouragement, I would like to, you can keep it, across the board, encourage you as an instrumentalist and those who are here with like MD hats on, you musically directing, and we've done an MD session here before last term. One of the things I'd be looking for is at the moments where you're trying to build it, is your instrumentalists feeling comfortable like digging in and bringing it. And if not, the reason for it might be like they just haven't thought to do that, but it actually might be a bit deeper. It might be they're feeling a bit insecure or a bit nervous. If you're leading a band or if you're a worship leader here and you can feel like, oh, I want a bit more from them, people don't thrive under your criticism. They thrive under your encouragement. Give a great well done. Hey, I feel like I'm getting like 50% from you. Do you reckon you could dig in a bit more, give more there? What you're doing sounds great. But at this point here, I think what you could play could really help build it. And you can encouragingly just draw somebody out to do that. So I would say on the whole, this is definitely something we've got room to grow in. Particularly, I just think younger people in the team, I just want to give you permission, I think. And I had a good chat with Lewis, actually, almost a couple of years ago. I was like, Lewis, I feel like we kind of get stuck at sort of 6 out of 10, like when we're leading together, just drumming wise. Like, I really want you to go for it and like permission, really, just to go to those 8s, 9s. When you do that, we just go somewhere. And I don't know why he's saying this, but from his end, it was more like, oh, I just wasn't sure if I was allowed to. It was a totally permission thing, if that's a fair representation of that conversation.
Yeah, totally. I'd grown up in a church where there was no drum screen, and I sort of prided myself, grammar, on playing sort of to the room, so not loudly, never sort of overbearing. And there's quite a lot of times here when the sound guys who do a great job, they say, oh, can you just like quiet down on the cymbals a little bit? And so that's in my head, was just like, oh, I've got to keep it in. But then Simon's always sort of like stamping his foot and like, give me more. And I just didn't really get that. So we had this conversation and I realized that Simon's got my back. So if he wants more out of me, he's going to take the flak from anybody else. And that goes two ways. So, but I think that was really releasing for me to realize he's the guy that's leading. I need to listen to him, not anyone else. And I mean, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying like always smash it, but did you get that?
Yeah, I think Lewis is a very sensitive drummer. And his heart isn't just, oh, forget the world, do my own thing. That's not his heart at all. But I was just noticed there were times when we were leading, a bit like earlier, we were going through that, who was and is to come. I want to build it. and Lewis is kind of just keeping it kind of a bit quieter. I was like, come on, there's a powerful moment here to grab, take it there. And I feel like I was sort of like trying to pull him up the sort of the hill a little bit. And we had the conversation, and it was literally like, oh, I just wasn't really aware that I was allowed to do that, or that you even wanted that, or if I did that, it would be a bit like overbearing. I was like, no, dude, you take us up the hill. And it was like the next time we drummed together, it was like a different person. He was just on the front foot, just pushed the whole thing forward, dynamically led us places. And yeah, and even just tonight, like his drumming took us to a place just in God. Like I can't really do that. That's very much a drum thing, which we'll come to later. So have these kind of conversations, worship leaders with your guys, encourage them, draw them out. So really, obviously, first thing, dynamics on your instrument is a range. Secondly, what have we got? The arrangement. So not just the instrument itself, but actually the arrangements of the whole song, and particularly entry and exit points. Now, in Baroque music, for like a free donut, have we got donuts tonight? No, was it crisps? For a free crisp, who can tell me the Baroque era to the nearest decades? 2. No, it's a bit early in 1700, but I think the 1750 is right. Yeah, I think is it 16 to 1750? Just say yes confidently. Great. In the Baroque period, yeah, go and help yourself. They didn't have FF and MP on their music markings. So in the music, the violins and the little harpsichords, when they wanted it louder, they didn't tell the violin players to play louder. The way they did it is they would write out less violin parts. So if that would only go down to 2 violins there, and they want a louder bit, they'd make 8 violins play it. So the way in which they achieved dynamics was they did it in the arrangement. If they wanted a softer bit, they just made it go down to 1 or 2 violins. The louder bit, everybody played. There's a subtle difference between point 1 and point 2. Do you get that? It's not like they played quieter, they just less of them played. And that actually very much translates to a live band environment. You can achieve a really quiet moment and just going down to 1 instrument and everyone else dropping out. And actually, the 1 instrument could be playing fairly loudly. But because everything, so stop for a minute, suddenly it feels quite quiet. It's not like because everyone's playing quietly, it's just they've all dropped out. So think about the arrangement. We go back to that graph. We're taking people on a journey. The story and the lyrics is telling a story. What can we do dynamically to help make that happen? Entry points and exit points for instruments is a really big deal and makes a big difference. So again, just listen to contemporary pop music, listen to what instruments enter where, when, why. Even in some of the arrangements we did tonight, certain things happen at certain points. If all the bands come in off the bat, boom, like we're in, it's like already kind of, we're at minimum sort of 5, 6 out of 10. But if like I come in, like Come Lord Jesus, just me on my own, just for a verse, we can sort of hang here for a bit. And the guys come in, it really felt like we stepped up. And that feeling of stepping up feels like, oh, we're going somewhere. We're moving forward somewhere. When they came in, they actually came in quite quietly. They could have all come in from the top and would have felt like, oh, okay. But then where do we go after that verse 1? Just holding back for a little bit and deciding to come in at a certain point makes a big deal. So I think when you're arranging songs like bands, don't always default to everybody coming in from the top. What are you talking about? Gateway. Yeah. What are you playing at the start of that? Are you just doing kick and snare? Yeah, so I think we were kind of mostly in. I don't really play much in that song. I guess I come in the chorus of that song. Yeah, it's just that bass sense of that one, but the big sort of chorus one is a moment. You hear that? I'm not doing that from the top on purpose. I'm going to leave space so I can really hit that first chorus in a declarative way. Exit points. Dropping out for like a verse can create a huge like dynamic change. So can we just model this with I Am Blessed quickly? Actually, no, I'll do that a bit later. Sorry, guys, when we come to the instruments. Oh, he's so ready. Oh, he's back down again. No, I think I'll model it now. Actually, we do it now. He's in. Let's go to I'm blessed. So we'll do a chorus of I am blessed. Do sing along, and then we'll go into. Actually, let's do a verse 1 chorus, verse 2 chorus. Let's do that. It's a bit longer. Yeah, great. Can you sing along? This is sort of less awkward for us. Here goes. We'll do the intro as well. Your faithfulness has found me and brought me safe this far. I was lost, a stranger to your mercy, an undeserving heart. That was them. That was them, and this is now. You turned it all around. I am blessed, carried by your faithfulness. I am blessed, never let my faith fall. Sorry. My healer and my savior, I worship you forever. Verse 2. Now I live with hope that won't be shaken, for you have chosen me, full of life, joy that's never ending. Blessing follows me from the grave and into life. You turn it all around. I am blessed, I am blessed. Oh, never let my heart forget. I am blessed, I'm carried by your faithfulness. My healer and my savior, I worship you forever. Good job. Observations. We did the song from the top. It was more of an up first chorus than a down first chorus. You know, we didn't drop out. So we went up, nice big turnaround. I wanted to drop back down to verse 2. We could have just stopped smashing it and just sort of tightened up a little bit, and it definitely would have felt like it dropped. But there's something we did in verse 2 that I said to the guys on purpose. Anybody clock it? What did we do? We did a build halfway through the verse. What else happened at the start of the verse that made it feel like it's dropped down? Bass dropped out. So all the bottom end of the sound of the warmth, Luke just stopped. Exit point for Luke. Leave the building here, please. All that happened halfway through that is Luke came back in again. So now I live, and just went down to now I live. And Lewis was kind of tapping away. All that happened halfway through that, you have chosen me, full of life. Luke comes back in again. And what's the net feel? Anna says, like, oh, it felt like you started building it there. We didn't actually build it at all. It's just Luke came back in again. And that feeling of Luke coming in made it feel like that. And I did that on purpose because of the line, like, full of life. You know, is that the lyric? The lyric steps up there too. I'm helping tell the story. So yeah, exit points. Bass players, that's a great technique. You don't want to overdo that in every verse 2 or every song because it gets a bit like predictable. But here's a bit of truth for all of you in this room. You don't have to justify your existence on the stage by playing in every section. Singers as well, like BVs, you don't have to justify your existence on the stage by playing and singing in every section. You are allowed just to step back for a verse. No one's thinking, gosh, what are they doing? Like, it's actually like less is more in some of these situations. Take a step back, let it breathe. When you step back in again, it will bring something that if it's just there the whole time, it just doesn't work. And if we had like BVs tonight, you know, we did that whole arrangement, you'd hear the way that BVs are used in that song well to help build it. They're not doing harmony the whole way through. That's like not a dynamic you want. Doesn't really work. So you get the point. Entry, exit points. There's like Lewis started and Andrew started that thing, and we all came in. There's lots of other examples we can give. So back to the PowerPoint. How are we achieving dynamics individually on our instruments? Secondly, the arrangement, entry, exit points. Thirdly, intensity of part. Each of us are playing a part. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I didn't nail it in that last song, if I'm honest. I'm just focusing on what we're teaching here. But here's an example. It could be that in verse 1, my part is this. I'm literally just marking the chords every 2 beats. But changing the intensity of my part, let's say for the pre-chorus, I could do this. I've intensified my part. I actually did couple it with playing a little bit louder, not much louder, but just the fact I've gone from marking the chords every 2 beats to actually playing quavers has actually created a dynamic of going forwards a little bit. On keys, there's lots and lots of ways you can do it. It's quite a big bandy song, so the piano's not going to cut through loads in this song. But in quieter songs like "Come Lord Jesus," I wasn't particularly focusing loads on this. So I don't know, I'm probably not the best example for it. But I think the parts you play actually build intensity into your part. It also helps adds to the bigger picture of building through the song. Does that make sense? Most obviously, and all the instruments do it, but I would say most obvious is probably actually the drums. And from drums, you just think, just doing a straight 4/4 groove, they're going absolutely bananas. That there's just 2 options. There's not. Even just the subtlest of changes can just help like build something, as demonstrated by Lewis right now.
Is this on? Yes. So that last song, the second verse, Luke dropped out, so I just played less kick drums and came away from the hi-hats. One, because this has got a microphone on it, so if I hit something else, it might not be quite so loud, but also it just gives a different texture. So when Luke dropped out, I was playing. Probably a better part would have been to just play the 1 and not the 3 on the kick drum. A bit more space, not so intense.
Sorry, can you just so we can all hear, make it really super obvious? Just play like 4 bars of that with just the 1 on the kick, and another 4 bars of 1 and 3. So even just that small little difference we can hear.
To hear that, it already picks up just by putting 1 more beat in the bar. Then when the second part of the verse comes in, that line, and Luke comes in, I move over to the hi-hats. I've got more dynamic range in this because I can open it with my foot, and I just played more kick drums. fills up more of the space in the bar and just makes it feel like we're going somewhere, because now there's something that it's sort of anchored in. There's more space for me to, well, by me taking up more space, it feels like it's gone somewhere. Does that make sense?
Great. Any questions on that, just quickly for Lewis, or on the drum stuff? There'll be more on the drums a bit later, but just on that. Even just going from like kick on 1 to 1 and 3, you can just feel the step up, hey? And he's like playing at like MP, like it's not loud. And so you can create a feeling of moving forward and tension, as we'll get to in a minute, at such a small, fundamental, very simple level. And that's just the same for all across the board in what you're playing. But no, you have to go that simple to add to it. If you're already playing quite complicated, it's actually quite hard to add more. So there's a discipline, again, that less is more, because you can always add to it. Great. Over on electric, do you want to just give us some examples of how you would play a simple part and then how you intensify it?
Okay, so on the verse, it's just like this palm muted thing. It's like thank you. So yeah, it does that, and then into the pre-chorus, and it goes. And going into the second pre-chorus, then go. I just double up the notes, just so it sounds a bit more. So there, just doing that, just so it's like a bit of movement there.
Nice. So going from the little muted thing again, just give it that. And then like let it, even can you play the same part, just rung out. And go up high again. And go up high to the chorus things.
Change effects and stuff and add a bit more.
So where's that? Is that in the pre-chorus?
Yeah, it goes.
Go on, I'll play it with you.
In the pre-chorus.
2, 3, 4. That was then. This is now. Go on, any chorus part? Great. And that's slightly more intense too, because it's got this like dang, 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 which is like quavers. Yeah. So there's an intensity there that also just builds into that chorus. Great job. Well done. So just to step back, why are we doing this again? It's because we're wanting to tell the story. And as I'll get to in a sec with tension and release, we wanted to help release worship in the room. And something about choruses in pop songs are the moments where, in fact, I'll do this. Let's talk about tension release. Any questions on dynamics? So I want us to learn to play the 2s to 10. Now let's talk about tension and release. So quickly, tension builds anticipation. I think in its most obvious kind of blatant way, it'd probably be in like a lot of dance music, where there's lots of builds and then there's the drop. You know, you go to festivals and you can see like a DJ on a stage or something, and it's building anticipation, and then the drop comes. Like what's going on there? The tension that's happening musically, it's building anticipation. It makes you want to get there. It makes you want it. Like you can feel your body getting sort of more tense, your heart sort of racing a bit. There's a feeling of moving towards something. You're going towards something. Emotionally, it's heightened. There's a longing, building, anticipating. This is nothing to do with God yet. This is just like the physical effects of this on your body and on your emotions. Then there's the release, the resolve, the drop. And you think like, particularly on dance floors, of the drop in big dance numbers, it's like party time. Even like I'm just thinking, the video for "Wake Me Up," yeah, song "Wake Me Up When It's All Over." What? It's not a New Day one. Yeah, I just remember the live video for that. It was like a massive, massive festival, and it's like tens of thousands of people just suddenly start jumping. It's just like, wow, that's amazing. That's not a God thing going on per se. That's actually just a musical phenomenon. That tension gets you to a place of release, and when the drop happens, I'm just trying to think, like, how do you describe that? Like, just emotionally, what happens? Like, boom, that the kind of high that the experience everybody feels. If it's there at a festival, it's in a club, that kind of drop. We kind of borrowed that when we wrote "Move Like This." There's a drop in that song. Let the praise explode. That's why we move like this. And that moment there, whenever we lead that song, it's just like an explosion of joy in the room. Just an explosion, just like ah. And I think we recognized there's something going on here musically that releases something. Hey, can't we redeem that for Jesus? Can't we actually release worship to him and joy for him? But it actually isn't just happening in a blatant, obvious way in big drops, in dance songs, but tension and release is happening all the time in music, all of the time. And it's happening, this sense of building tension. So let's just look at what song now we did. And that was then, and this is now. You turn it all around. Just unpicking that quickly, even just the climbing chords. Like that is a sense of tension. The fact as a band we start doing. We're building tension for you guys, whether you like it or not. It's coming at you. There's tension happening there. The melody, and that was then. It's rising. This is now. You turn, and there's no turn it all around. You have to sing that note. It's a bit of a discord as well. You turn it all. That note is not in a chord. You noticed that before? This is now. You turn it all around. Why are we building tension? Why do we do this? Why should we just go for a release in the chorus? We hit the one, I am blessed. You hit the one, which is the B, you sing in that third, blessed. Because we want to release worship in a room. And the way a lot of our modern worship day choruses are written is that lyrically, a chorus is a point where it's actually most declarative in an outward sort of sense and in a praise sense. And we want to actually draw that out of people and call it out of people. And if we just sung I Am Blessed, which is a powerful thing to sing, we could sing that actually musically in a negative way. And it doesn't really call it out of people's souls. And building tension actually helps just release worship. So it isn't just some emotional manipulation. There's something spiritual also going on in this dynamic that they don't have in Glastonbury in the same way. Is that we're calling out worship. So good, effective bands will know how to lean in at certain points to create tension. There's some inherent songwriting tension skills there that Sam has done, but obviously band-wise, we've done something. So looking through your song list on a Sunday, where are the moments, if you're asking a question here, where and when do we build tension? Like where and when should we actually do this? Okay, like building tension releases everywhere. I've just picked one pre-chorus everywhere. Where and when should we actually do it? One of the quickest ways to answer that is, where do you want to have a release? Where do you want to have a moment of release? The way our songs are written is every chorus really is a releasing moment. That's a moment of just where are the moments in the song where you really want to just let it release? Then you need to learn to build tension into those moments. So moving into sections of release, you need to start thinking, how are we building tension here? By default, my observation would be we sort of flat line to sort of 4 to 5, and inherently in the song, you know, in the melody and the chords, there are bits of tension release, but it's not really supported by the band. I want to just equip you really and encourage you to to join in with the song and the lyrics and push and pull at the places that the song does. So that's where and when. I think moving between sections, anytime you move between a section, you're either going up or down. If you're going to go up in terms of where the story is taking you, build into it. Don't just hit it. And I think the best way to do this is just model this quickly. And the way you build into a section, yeah, remember that graph? It wasn't just like verse, chorus. No, there's a building into it, and there's lots of ways, just really simple ways that you can do that across the instruments. So next question will be, how do you do that? We'll just quickly start with drums. Drums have a huge, huge, huge role in setting the dynamic of a band. So hands up if you're a drummer here, quick. You guys, girls, have a huge role in setting the dynamic for the whole band. The way mixes are built and the way bands are built is we are kind of sitting on the drum kit. You are kind of the bottom of the boat that we are sitting on in that sense. When you play louder, the band will play louder. When you sort of pull things back a bit, the rest of the band will pull things back a bit. More than any other instrument in the room, I would argue. So I think drummers, you in particular, learning how to just build into sections to help make them build tension and to release. So just a real quick example, and just to say, in 2 weeks' time, when we have our instrument masterclasses, I think these guys will actually teach you forward for the different instruments, how to do this in a lot more detail, but just a quick few headlines. Lewis, would you mind doing... just for example, just do like 4 bars of like closed hi-hat and then do 4 bars of ride like groove. Hey mate, without any build or any anticipation, just swap between the two. Great. Can you do that again? And the only thing to change this time round is just start to open the hats a little bit going into it. Great. Can you do the first one again? So don't do the hats, but this time do it with maybe just chuck in a few extra snares like you do a fill on the snare.
Well hard today. I can't do it.
Just 2 real quick things. Just him opening up the hats. Didn't that feel like you wanted to go somewhere? It actually got to the point where you don't want to stay there much longer. You know what I mean? In a good way. He's making us want to move on, and it works. It's such a small little thing. Open the hats into a section, and like you could do that just from a verse to a pre-chorus. And the other example was like keep the hats shut. Just chuck in some more snares. Again, the intensity of a part can build tension. Really, really small thing. And Lewis can teach more on that when we do the drum workshop. But when I said tension release is happening all the time, I mean it. Like every section of every song, that's happening on every instrument. And that was in a really small example what's happening. Vocals, if you're a worship leader, you can also do this. So I did it a little bit in when we're doing Who Was and Is to Come. Who was and is, sing along with me, and is to come. Who was and is to come. Lift up his name. That builds tension in a room, hey? I just came out of the melody and just did a little ad lib. I didn't even have to do that high note then. And it's to come. I could have just done and it's to come. Even that would have been enough. So like worship leaders on mics and BVs, think like carefully where you're putting things like that in. You can use those, like you're great singers and you know how to sing, and you hear people on like the radio and people doing this live, they're doing it partly to like, look how good my voice is. But we can do that, not have a sense of like need of listen to me, how good I am, but you can do that to actually help the room and lift them in worship. And I think even on this front, just like permission to do that, permission to use what God's given you, as these guys are, with your voice. And you've got to work within the limits of different voices would be able to do different things. I've just learned I can't sing like Sam Cox does. I just can't sing like high notes like he does. But I can do certain things in a way which, in the voice God's given me. But I think be smart where you do that, and don't think that's unspiritual. A lot I know with Matt Redman, like he really plans his ad libs. He really thinks through even just the melodies that he uses, and carefully where he puts them in a song. And I've learned this from leading worship in this room for many, many years. Just when certain ad libs you do at certain places, you just see like another 100 hands just go up in the air. You just can call things out or just sing things in a certain way that just rouse people. That's a real God-given thing. You're building tension in a room that can release stuff. So there's something for the vocalists. Does that make sense? Great. Just quickly, just for the bass players, Luke, what might you do going from a section?
Is this on? Yes, wonderful. Okay, so coming towards the end of one section, before going into another one, I might go up an octave so that things feel less kind of stable and solid. I might, if there's been a particular rhythm going on, I might straighten that out and just...
Okay, hold fire for a moment then. So the first one is you might go up an octave to make it less stable and solid. Isn't that interesting? So the effect that we had earlier when he dropped out for that first half of verse 2 is it was just a bit emptier. Something happened, came back in again. It felt like it built. Something about just disappearing for a bit. It doesn't feel as like just solid. The rhythm section's there, but it's funny, interesting. You're saying you would choose to do that even in a build. So when Lewis is opening up his hats and getting a bit busier, you would actually kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a solid low root note, then everything feels very kind of like stable and grounded and comfortable. And so you can still build, you can make a lot of noise, add a lot of rhythm, but just you're setting yourself up for that first note of the next section where you're back down again and everything feels really solid and landed and safe and good to move on.
Yeah. Do you mind if we quickly just model that? Can we just do who was and is to come, lift up his name, and just do the chords without going up high, just to hear what it sounds like without that tension first?
Sure.
And Lewis, if you do straight fours, and the only thing you do is open the hats. We're going to do who was and is to come once. 3. Who was? Sorry, A and B and is to come. Lift up his name. Which is cool. Like Lewis's drums made it feel like we're going to the chorus. But let's see if Luke can add anything that takes us there. 3. Who was and is to come. Lift up his name with the sound of singing. Let's take it somewhere else. Exactly the same notes, just up an octave. It's like GCSE, man. It's like so simple. No offense to anyone who's 16 in the room. Sorry. Keep working hard, guys. Every bit of revision counts off. You never get this year back. Go again. So anyway, and when I know that he's doing that, I actually I will come off the bass too, because there's no point in him going up high and I'm still like, we're working against each other. So when I hear Luke do that, I kind of ditch my left hand as well, just to add to that sense of like going up high. You notice DJs do that too, like a low pass filter sometimes before a drop. I guess I can't really demonstrate about doing it. Yeah, don't worry. They would take the bass out of a track, then put it back in, and like the drop like hits. Yeah, so I think looking at the rhythm section, there's two really obvious things there, but there are like so many more. They're the most two basic things I asked Lewis to do. There'll be lots of other things we can do. I'm just looking at time. And on the bass, just one thing, like going up an octave, creates tension. And obviously, you've demonstrated like a few things that you can do. I think the bigger picture I want to put to us is, can we arrange and build really compelling music for our sites on Sundays? I think we can, but I think this, point number 3, that it takes practice. If you rock up on a Sunday, just run the song, like the first thing you got to get is just the chords right, like MDs. Just run the song first, and just has everyone even got the chords? Great. No, okay, these guys haven't. Just check they're all right. Great. Run it again. See what the chords. Great. That's done. Harmony. Tick. Now let's go again. Now let's really think about dynamics. And when I'm MDing a band, I'll say, guys, that sounds great. This time, can we really think about the dynamics? Let's really lean into that first chorus. Or I really feel like maybe nice to drop back a bit in verse 2 to make that next chorus 2 feel like it's going somewhere. Yeah, and run it through and feel like it was okay. We sort of went from 4 to 6 out of 10 to move through them. I think there's a bit more. We run it again, and I think as an MD, I'm clocking everybody, and I feel like, oh, it's still feeling strong here. I feel maybe a bit timid over here. I think there's more in you. Come on, and think, okay, I need to just try and draw that out of them and encourage them. But you can't go through that process on a Sunday morning if you've got 45 minutes to run 5 songs. Like, you just can't. This actually takes time just to practice an arrangement. And if you've got a younger player who's in the room and feeling a bit insecure, a bit nervous, which we all do now and then, if they can't do it there, they're not going to turn up on Sunday and do it in 5 minutes. So just giving people space just to try stuff out, just to find the full kind of scope of stuff on the keyboard is really, really important. So I know this term, practice time, I'm glad you guys are here and finding another night outside of this or going to another room. It's sort of, when we're all here every week, it's slightly counterintuitive in terms of how much time we're giving you to rehearse. But outside of this term and outside of these evenings, take time to practice dynamics. I remember with Mark and the New Day bands from 2005. So we are talking like 13 years ago. I felt like we were doing well, but weirdly enough, it was with Face Down. We were going around that like, let your glory shine around, let your glory shine around, let your glory be found. And it was good, and we were building it, but as kind of most 18-year-olds build, it was like, no offense if you're 18, but like your default is you just sort of smash it out like, and drumming wise, it was like just play it a bit louder. But I felt like, I think drumming wise, there's something in our drummer at the time that there was more in him. There's more in you. I hear you jam outside of rehearsals. I hear you play in other settings, and just stuff comes out of you. Yeah, it felt a bit timid. So we played this sort of little game where like everyone else in the bands just stayed the same. Just did the same chords. And I asked the drummer, don't worry about locking down the ride the whole time. Just play out. Express yourself and just build tension. Take it somewhere. We'll follow you eventually, but it needs to come from you. And we did that in a rehearsal setting. We probably took like a good 45 minutes to an hour just doing that. And what happened on the back of that was remarkable. He was just released, and that song we put on the album that year, and if you listen, like something the band just sort of stays here, but this thing just emerges, like in terms of the drums, and it takes everyone else there. So even just as drummers, the way in which you build doesn't just have to be like, just hit the quavers, just playing out and playing over stuff. You can slowly build tension. So would you like to hear Lewis do that? Okay, well, we'll play the A's and the B's. So we'll do Little Glory Shine Out. Right, here goes. So we'll do a few rounds of just hitting A's and B's. Great job. Yeah, powerful. Yeah, and I think combine that power just with context of glory of Christ, glory of God, mercy of God, whatever it is you're singing about. It's just a powerful thing. Lewis wouldn't have done that 2 years ago. It's just a conversation I had with him and just gave him permission. And that's more of just what he does. So I think I just want to encourage you, leaders and worship leaders in particular, to keep calling out of musicians. Yeah. So in your rehearsals, some homework for you guys. Pick a song. In Christ alone, I am blessed, whatever. Doesn't have to be one of mine. If it is, it'll definitely be better, but don't worry, it doesn't. Run it, do it, enjoy it, then stop and think, how can we take this song and make the chorus more compelling? How can we build some tension to actually make it, when you get to that chorus, that bit, it's just like, yes, I want to be there. And tension, I'm kind of looking at drummers in the room, that's something for you guys to take a lead in. But the other thing I'd say is, it doesn't actually have to just be drummers. Lots and lots of those examples where tension can be built just from a guitar part, like digging in, and that can lead you somewhere. And keys parts as well. But obviously the drummer does have a big fundamental role. And vocals, like what can you do to help actually build tension? Worship is what can you do? And I think give time to it. Give time to it. What you'll find is with your bands, if you do this, even just say once a rehearsal, just one song you particularly dig into, even just the discipline of that, within 6 months, those skills become second nature to your team. They might be second nature to you, but they might not be to your drummer or to your bass player or to your guitarist. You need to help them get there through just giving space and encouraging them to do it. And as you do that, then actually those weeks where you can't get a rehearsal, you have to turn up because sometimes there's lives like that. Actually, even just cobbling 3 musicians together last minute can still pull up something out of the bag really compelling. You're just growing someone's musicianship, I guess, at the end of the day. Does that make sense? Great. We've hit 9:30. You've actually gone a couple of minutes over. Any questions just quickly? Yes, Andy. Great question. Oh, that's a really good question. There are heights you get to in certain songs, which are totally appropriate. And I think in our modern day pop songwriting, that big octave jump thing and that emotional high is actually in quite a lot of songs. We were in a worship time recently. We actually did 3 in a row, like Cornerstone, You Alone Can Rescue, that Jake Isaac song. And actually it was like, we kind of overplay that sort of thing a little bit. It's almost a bit like every song is doing that big sort of jump thing. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. They're actually great songs. It's just modern day songwriting. I think we do actually need to learn to find some of the songs that don't do that, to help the moments where we do that seem even bigger. So there are some arrangements that I would pick in a worship time. I'm thinking, no, this song isn't going to get much beyond 8 out of 10. This is going to stay in a more reflective, contemplative space. So that when we get here, this is the point I really want to push people to. I think also in an age where, and in a culture where we could be vulnerable to people pointing and saying just emotional manipulation, that's all that music and worship is, which is a conversation I have with people. Actually just, yeah, I think if that's what every song is like, I can totally see what that's like. I can see why people might say that. But actually it is quite tasteful to not do that in every song, and to find songs that don't do that. But you can, as long as that's on purpose. So I'm trying to think, when we did I Worship You, most of that song is really a quiet arrangement. Sometimes the communion song will never get beyond 6 or 7 out of 10. It just needs to stay in a reflective space. There'll still be dynamics within it, but it's not like looking to get to those big moments. Yeah, so I think there's a balance to it, which is important. Where you do it, it's just, I think it's different every time, isn't it? Like, I guess, personally speaking, I often find the song after communion is a really powerful moment. I think because of the dynamic of communion and people are walking around, people aren't actually engaging with all the lyrics of the song. People actually are remembering Christ. Trying to really go for something massive in communion actually doesn't really work. So I find the moment after people have broke bread, drunk wine, remember Jesus, there's a freshness in their hearts. There's something you can grab hold of there and like run with. So I'd often find that song is a compelling moment, and the end of the service. But I don't know if that helps answer the question. Yeah, totally. But I think even going to a gig like at the Green Door Store and there's a set of 6 songs, they'll still think through the emotional journey of that set. And it's not every song will be like banging in that sense. But yeah, you're right. It is different. Any other questions quickly? Great. Well, either that's because I've covered everything just perfectly and answered all of your questions, or you're tired and we've gone 9 minutes over, which I'll probably lean towards the latter. Can we say a massive thank you to these guys? Lewis, I feel like you've got something to say. Any final words? Sure. Great. Well, guys, thank you so much. We're back here again next week, 7:30. I know it's half term, so some people are away, but do come and join us. And then a week after that, we've got instrument groups. Yeah, we've got a great. Would it help you knowing ahead of time what it's going to be? Is that so you can decide if to turn up or not, or it's just like, yeah, okay, we'll ping that out. Thanks so much for coming out. We'll see you soon.